Yo, so play dirty. Right, this is the brand new film from Shane Black. Right, he directs and he co-writes with Chuck Mondry and Anthony Bagarozzi. Bagarozzi, I think that's how you say it. Right, the film is produced by who have we got? We have Mark Toberoff, James W. Scotch Duple, Jules Daly. It is co-produced by Ezra Emanuel, Sam Greenberg, and Ben Horwath. Executive produced by Chuck Mondry, Susan Downey, Robert Downey Jr., Anthony Bagarozzi. It's associate produced by Joe Anton. And there is line production from Jennifer Cornwell. So Alan Silvestri takes care of the score. Philip Rosalot is down with the cinematography. Chris Lebonzon and Joe Negron edit the piece. Right, casting was handled by Sarah Finn. Production design is Owen Patterson. Art direction, we have Tony Drew, Helena Geber-Watts, Ian Gracie, and Nicholas Dare and Victor Caposi. Yeah. Alana Shea is set decoration. Costume design is Kim Barrett. Hair and makeup, we have Belinda Anderson, Alan A. Apone, Jennifer Lamprey, Shion Richards, Ali Robertson, Micheline Sue, Helen Tuck, Colin Ware, and Colin Wilson. Right. Who is on the stutter dumps? Let's have a look, because there was a whole heap of stunts up in this one, people. You know what I mean? Load of explosions and all of that jazz. So we have got boy, man, I always hate this layout on IMBD. Shit could be done a whole lot better. Anyway, we have Lucino Acuna Jr., Lee Adamson, Cameron Ambridge, Chase Armitage, Frank Bowell, Andrea Birchtold, Georgie Blackwell, Kyle W. Brown, Mike Burke, Kyle Clark, Robbie Clissold, Tim Cody, George B. Colucci Jr., Nico Cooch, James Davis, Monique Dawes, Alex Delaquila, Mark Duncan, Mike Duncan, Mel Eckhart, Nash Edgerton, Peter Epstein, Rob Flanagan, Shane Geraghty, Gareth Hadfield, Oxgan Ismaili, Stephen Izzy, Robert Jones, Michael Jupp, Ali Kadim, Keegan Carabellas, Maurice Kubicki, Nick LaRocca, Luke Lesko, Assie Martin, J. Nicholas Mezzi, Olga Miller, Daniel Nielsen, Casey O'Neill, Chris Pace, Philip Partridge, Christopher Place, Travis Quist, Kevin Rogers, Rob Roseman, Marco Singalelia, Chris Stanley, Travis Stanton Mario, Glenn Suter, Riley Suter, Chris Taylor, Matt Taylor, Ben Toa, Sarah Trimble, Mark Trotter, Jesse Turner, Mark Wickham, Sean Wood, and Masa Yamaguchi. They handle all of the crazy death-defying stunts that we see, right? Which then leaves us to this cast, and we do have a good cast of actors and actresses here, people. Right, so Parker is played by Mark Wahlberg. His friend Grofield is played by LaKeith Stanfield. There's Zen, played by Rosa Salazar. Ed Mackey is played by Keegan-Michael Key. We have Philly Webb, played by Thomas Jane. Grace Webb, played by Gretchen Mole. Who else do we have? There's Brenda Mackey, played by Claire Lovering. Joe, played by Byron Cole. His wife, played by Kate Hoyles. There's Tracy, played by Yvonne Zimmer. Mark Cuban is in it as himself. Bet, played by Michelle Ang. We've got Della Paz, played by Alejandro Eda. Colonel Ortiz, played by Hemke Madeira. Lozini, played by Tony Shalhoub. There's Kincaid, played by Nate Wolff. Phineas Paul, played by Chuck Woody Iwuji. Stan Devers, played by Trey Hansen. Hothead, played by Sebastian Carr. Nick Russell is the bank supervisor. Madge, played by Petter Wilson. The bank supervisor's girlfriend, played by Saskia Archer. I think, right, that is probably our main group of people. Beckler, played by Robert Ranieri. Kinney, played by Giuseppe Dall'Ora. Bosco, played by Andrew Ford. Right. Jack Carpenter, played by Patrick Parker. Winnie, played by Gemma Dart. Yeah. Oh, Reggie Riley, played by Adam Dunn. Jimmy the driver, played by George Tilley. Yeah, that's it. That's our main lot, right? So the gist: an expert thief rolls out the biggest heist of his life in Play Dirty, an action-packed thriller from director Shane Black. Parker, along with Grofield, Zen, and a skilled crew, stumble onto a score that pits them against the New York mob in this gritty, clever caper. Okay, so yeah, I guess that's it, right? Now, we have had, there's been, two other, I think, two other Parker films, right? There was, oh gosh, I want to say Paycheck, and Mel Gibson played Parker in that one. And then there was another Parker film, and I believe Jason Statham played Parker in that one, right? And yeah, I mean, I've read a few of the Parker books, right? And I enjoyed them. They're decent. And I think the thing with the Parker character is that he's right, I think Parker essentially is like Daredevil, Luke Cage, Punisher to the MCU, right? They are the street level heroes, right? They're the heroes that take care of the things that the Avengers don't do, right? That you're not going to have Thor or Iron Man come and deal with, right? That's what they do. And Parker he's not James Bond. You know what I mean? That's not him. He's not doing world spanning situations, right? He's pulling off some bank jobs, some heist, right? He's a street level crook. And there's something fun about that, right? Because you've got the big spies doing all the other stuff. Like, you know what I mean? We've got the Grey Man, right? We've got Bond. We've now got, is it Jack Reese? The Terminal List, right? Those books, right? I think Mark Dawson has John something. I can't think of the surname, but you get the gist, people. There are those spies and things where, you know, you've got those books where they do these big situations, right? Taking on, you know, governments and that level of thing. So there is a space for, right, the smaller stuff. And yeah, it's fun. Right, a bit like Walter Mosley's stuff, right? Payback. That's the name of the Mel Gibson one, right? And the other one was Point Blank, right? So yes, so we had that, but this film, it's not street level, right? This is some big thing where they are going up against a country, right? A country, right? The country never gets named. It's just like, yes, I'm doing this for my country, right? And every time it's just like, my country. And I just think, like, you wouldn't keep on saying that, right? And someone would eventually say the name of the fucking country. But anyway, that is the thing, which is just because we start off with this heist that goes a bit, you know, wrong. And we have this whole thing on a racetrack, right? A racetrack. Cars going around, horses. I think at one point a jockey gets run over and he's fine. It's like the fucking A-Team, right? You know what I mean? A jockey gets flipped over a car. And he's okay. But yeah, so we have this big thing on a racetrack, car chases, like all manner of things. And then this big shootout, right? And, films start off in this manner to show, you think this is big. We're going to go bigger than this. Right? This is just to whet your appetite, people. But I'm watching this and I'm just like, this ain't Parker. What the fuck is this? Also, like, cars going around horses, the horses would go completely nuts. But the horses do not. Right? There's just all kind of, it's just a bit of an odd, it's odd when you think about it, right? Obviously, you're going to have people that love it because it's like crazy, it's exciting, it's like bish, bash, bosh, you know what I mean? But yeah, if you've read the Parker books, you're going to be like, I mean, this is bizarre, right? So we have all of this. And then, as I said, from that, it just gets bigger, right? We've got different subplots, You've got, big, all of these twists and backstabs and double crosses, red herring galore all over the shop. And it's fine. If you just want a film that is full of, craziness, then I am sure you will enjoy Play Dirty. But it's 128 minutes, right? So that's just over 2 hours. And it feels long, right? It feels like there's a lot of stuff that we could cut because it does kind of get saggy in the middle. There's a lot of things where you're just like, do we need this? Because we know what's happening here, right? We know that this is going to go wrong and then you're going to have to do this next thing and blah, blah, blah. It's like, all of these beats, right? So it's just like, why is all of this stuff here? It's cast as one of these action comedies, but all the jokes are they're kind of lazy, right? They're they're mad predictable, right? Like, it's not, like, I think you've got that kind of street comedy, right? Like, if you were doing this kind of job, right? You can imagine people's, like, you're waiting for, a mark to turn up or something. So you might just be cracking joke with your boys, right? All of this, but not like this. So I think if the jokes were better, that it would mesh better with the film. You know what I mean? But everything's a bit like, the timings get moved, but everyone's drunk. Oh. Right? And then you have these bits where it's just like, what you saw didn't really, like, it was all a ruse, which is just, that's fine. But if it's all a ruse, the reactions of people doing these things is going to be different. Because you're not trying to sell it to anyone because you're not around anyone. You see what I'm saying? Like, if you were in a room, fine. You would be like, oh no, what's going on? You'd be doing all of that, right? Because you're trying to sell that you have no clue about the thing. But if you're on your own, why the fuck would you be, oh no, that wasn't meant to happen? You wouldn't be doing any of that. Because there's no one that can hear you. There's no one watching your lips, watching your reactions. You know what I mean? Like, so you wouldn't be doing that. You would just be doing the parts of the plan. So it's all a little bit bizarre in that sense. As I said, we have a good cast. Now, if you just take the action for what it is, there's some decent scenes, right? There's some decent things going down. You know, some of it you're watching and going, that explosion was clearly CGI, right? You know what I mean? Like, well, that didn't really happen right there. You know what I mean? There's things like that. But yeah, some of the chases and as I say, the gunfights and things like that, they're fun, right? They work. But as a whole, for me, this film just seemed mad messy. You know what I mean? Just seemed mad messy. And as I said, it's just not Parker. You know what I mean? Like, it is always odd when you buy a license, right? Or the rights for one thing as part of a thing. But then you make it completely different to that thing that you just paid for. What was the point in paying for the thing? Especially Parker, right? I enjoy the books. There's a lot of people that enjoy the books, but it's not one of those series that if you just walked up to random people on the road and were like, yo, you know who Parker is? They'd be like, Peter Parker? You know what I mean? That's what they wouldn't go, oh, you mean the character created by Richard Stalkings? No, they would not. They wouldn't be saying that shit to you. You know what I mean? Richard Stark even. I said Stalkings. Why did I say Stalkings? I don't know. But they wouldn't say that. They wouldn't know who he is. Which means you could have called this character anything. Right? You could have called him Henry Hilltower. Right? And that would have worked. It would have been the same film. But it wouldn't then have all the baggage that comes with using the Parker name. Right? So, yeah, I kind of feel like this. I don't think it's Shane Black's strongest fee. Right? He's done a lot better, a lot funnier, right? A lot smarter films. I even preferred Predators to this, to be honest with you, you know? And that wasn't, you know, the best film in that franchise, right? But I thought it was a better film than this. I can imagine that Amazon picked this up to create a tentpole, right? Because there's a few books, right? So you could have made a whole heap of different films. I just don't think that this is the thing that necessarily spawns a franchise, unless it didn't really cost a lot to make, right? If it was cheap to make, then you go, okay, they might make more. But when you look at this cast, right, and then just think of all the CGI work they used, just like all the chases and the just everything. I imagine the budget was pretty big. You know what I mean? I imagine it was pretty big. So, yeah, I'm not sure we're going to see more Parker films. Right? And, you know, maybe someone else picks up the franchise and does it correct. Right? Maybe that happened. Though I will say, I did think the Mel Gibson one was pretty on point, really, when you think about it. Right? I don't think Mel Gibson necessarily is Parker per se, but the film itself, I think that was more akin to what the character is in the books themselves, you know? So, yeah, I mean, listen, if you like Shane Black, if you like Wahlberg, right, LaKeith, everyone else who's in the film, you might want to give it a look, right? It's on Prime, so you don't necessarily have to pay for it if you've got, a Prime account, right? So, yeah, depending on, what you were looking for. If you want something which you don't have to think about, right, that's just pure action, then boom, go check out Play Dirty, right? But yeah, I wouldn't say don't be expecting a really, intricate, clever story, because that's not this, okay? But hey, these are just my thoughts, baby. You might think completely differently, right? But this is my point of view on Play Dirty.